In the late 1950s, Thomas William Simpson, a performer and magic dealer, began to assemble what would become the first formally organized series of lessons in the art of mind reading. Under his stage and pen name, Tony Corinda, his 13 steps, as he came to call them, is to this day required reading for all interested in this strange and beautiful art. Welcome to 13 Steps to Mentalism, and your guide, Richard Osterland.
I'm delighted to be here today to present Corinda's 13 Steps to Mentalism. I can't tell you how much this book has been part of my professional career for well over 40 years. I'd like to thank Martin Macmillan of International Magic in the United Kingdom, copyright holder of the book, for giving us permission to use it. I'd like to thank Tony Corinda for his blessings. I'd like to thank him for writing the 13 Steps in the first place. And I'd like to thank Louis Falenga for choosing me for this project. We have devoted ourselves to going through this book and choosing the best material for you. Now, the book was written over 50 years ago, so there are some things that are a bit dated. We've tried to change those items, update them for the modern performer. I've also tried to add a lot of new ideas that still retain the same concepts that Tony put into this book. This book has been invaluable to me for my entire career. I hope you find it to be that worthwhile to you too.
Step 1, Swami Gimmick. Well,
here we are.
It was a while to get to this point. Let's talk a little bit about how this all came to be.
Yeah, that was last year when you called me and said, how would you like to do Corinda's 13 Steps? And it was frankly overwhelming to me when you know, it was like, wow, 13 steps. Yeah, I want to do it. And then about a week later, after we said we're going to do it and committed to it, and saying, looking through it again and again and saying, man, what did I do? You know? Well, you know, in the introduction, I mentioned how this book has been part of my career. I wasn't joking. This is my copy. It's falling apart. It's all dirty. It's all kinds of dog-eared and everything else.
It's been well read.
Yeah, and that's my personal copy. There is so much in here. That's what became overwhelming. You know, unlike a card book, not to put any, you know, put down doing card work or coin work, it's a little bit easier to go through a book and say, do one effect after another, card effects, you know. Right. Whereas when you're talking this kind of material, you're talking all kinds of props, all kinds of different situations, all kinds of settings.
And they're all concepts too that you had to try to make the viewer understand that they weren't just disembodied tricks, but they were tricks that were created to teach a particular concept, like the Swami Gimmick tricks, for example.
Right. And then, of course, another thought that kept coming to me over and over again is, you know, this book is considered the Bible of mentalism by a lot of people. So if I leave this or that out, or say the wrong thing about this or that, I'm going to offend somebody.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure about that because this book is so revered.
There's 170 some effects. You know, I'm going to get in a Corinda frame of mind. I'm going to use some terminology I don't normally use, but I want to be true to the book, and I'll call them tricks, because Corinda calls them tricks. And the reason I always shied away from that is because it seems like in modern times now, people use the term so loosely, almost in a derogatory way, that I tend to like to call them effects, but we're calling them tricks. There's 170 listed, not counting all the other ones that are part of a two-person act or question reading. So there's a lot of material. If we were to do everything, first of all, it would take us a month to do it all.
Right.
And secondly, we'd wind up with, you know, 10 or 12 or more DVDs to put everything on.
Right.
And it would just be cost prohibitive, and, you know, there would just be too much. So the problem is, what do you pick?
Yeah.
And so you try to pick those items from each step that give the basic concepts of that step. And in this case, I've tried really hard to update a lot of the things, make them a little bit more modern. There are some things in here. Now, and this is one of the points I wanted to make. I consider this book, more than any other single mentalism book, to be foundational and rudimentary. But I don't worship it. I don't worship any, as much as I love the Tarbell course. I don't worship it.
Okay.
There are things in here I don't agree with necessarily.
Okay.
Or there are some things in here I think there could probably be a better way. And as we go through these different steps, I'm not going to be afraid to point a few of these out, you know?
Yeah, sure.
Why I think this might be a better approach than what's in the book.
And a lot of these things that you've changed are merely a reflection of the time the book was written in versus the times we live in now. Just audiences have changed, the attention spans have changed, things that you can borrow easily from an audience have changed, modern inventions have changed. I know you wanted to talk about the calculator a little bit.
When we get to the step dealing with mental effects, with just quick math and magic squares, and that chapter, we're going to get into that more so. And yeah, so people, this has been a criticism of 13 Steps and practical mental effects too by people. They say it's dated.
Right.
Well, yeah, it's dated. Mm-hmm. Sure it is. These days things are dated in a month if you want to get down to it. But here's the point. Even if the book is somewhat dated, and I know you and I, we've had these conversations on almost a weekly basis. You and I have been on the phone discussing different problems with different parts of the book and what have you. What book can you go out and buy today where you get 100 effects, 100 usable effects, and I'm being conservative now. Yep. We've got between 50 and 60, maybe even a few more effects on this set of videos that we chose to represent the best of the best. That's not to say there's not a whole lot more in here that I had to pass over for one reason or another.
Oh, right, yeah. The original list was quite longer than what it was pared down to.
Yeah. And yet, tell me a modern book you can go out and buy these days that has that much usable material in it. So the value of the book is still tremendous. Even though, yes, it is a bit dated in some of the approaches, it's still the king of the books. Mm-hmm. This is it. This is #1 mentalism book. So, yeah, I hope everyone watching this set of videos will appreciate and understand what we try to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And also be aware, and this is another point that's so important to me, that those things that we did change and try to update, you can do that with the rest of the material too.
Sure.
As a matter of fact, there's a whole bunch of stuff in this book that's back at my house in Kentucky, half built, that I just elected, no, I can't use this really. It's just a little bit too much to put in mm-hmm. to this set. So yeah, we could come back here in a year and do this all over again with different effects in the books, and there's plenty of material there to use it with.
Sure. But I think what's important is that the viewer understands the historical significance of this book, and unlike Practical Mental Effects, which is still another cornerstone mentalism book, but Anneman did not try to arrange the effects into some sort of a systematic course.
It was a magazine. I mean,
right.
It was
basically the best, a lot of the best effects from the Jinx and some other sources. Almost all the material from Practical Mental Effects came out of the Jinx, right?
Yeah, you're right. There were a couple other things.
There were some other added things,
but
but this book here was the first attempt by someone to arrange something in almost a Tarbell-like fashion that, mm-hmm. that this really is a course in mentalism, and that's why the historical significance of this book really can't be undervalued.
Mm-hmm. You know, and let me leave you with one last thought. This has been an eye-opener for me, because never before have I sat down with a single book exclusively for 6 months and studied nothing else but that yep. book, which I was forced to do with this recording this set. You learn so much. You find so much material, so many gems hidden in there that you've read over 5, 10, 15 times and just never thought about.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, it's that last time you read it, you say, wait a minute. What if I just change this or that a little bit? And all of a sudden, a whole world of stuff opens up. There's stuff in here that I read about 10 times, 20 times, and I never tried it because I never bothered making it up.
Yeah.
But because I knew we were going to have to do this, I had to make it up. And once I did, it was like, wow, I never did this before. So with this book or any other classic book, if you really want to learn, take one book, sink into it for 6 months, to the exclusion of everything else, and see where you are at the end of those 6 months.
It makes you wonder what hidden gems are lurking in magic books on all of our shelves that we've never actually taken the time to go through so meticulously like you've gone through that in the last 6 or 7 months.
You know, if we can convince Lewis about this, he can just keep bringing this back over and over. We can do the Tarbell course, you know, we can do our magic, greater magic. There is no tool in all of mentalism that's more useful and more powerful than the Swami Gimmick. It's incredible the things that you can use this single device for. As Tony Corinda mentions in the book, at times these effects are so strong that your audience will be assured that you're using a stooge. Tony was wise for making this the first step in his book. "13 Steps to Mentalism" begins with the initial chapter on Swami gimmicks, and it begins by showing all the different types of Swami gimmicks that were available when Corinda wrote that step. In front of you here are the types of gimmicks that are most common today, and I'd like to run right down the line and then show you my preference. Over here, we have what was always considered to be a novelty, the thumb tip gimmick, where you actually have the lead sticking right out of the thumb tip. It's just worn like that. And for a regular pencil lead, and we have two different kinds of leads here demonstrated. We have a pencil lead and we have the grease pencil, the larger type of lead used for writing on stage, where the line is nice and thick and can be seen. I don't really ever think this is appropriate for close-up because to me it's kind of overkill to have this great big old thumb tip. But for stage use, I've started using this kind occasionally and find no problem with it. Obviously, if you're way up on stage, far away from the audience, the thumb tip is going to be virtually invisible, and it's easy to get on and off and fairly stable. And if you're writing on a fairly large card, it's easy to use. Now, these days, most people talk about boon gimmicks and undernail writers. The band type writer is not mentioned that much, but it's a very practical form of writer. This is the writer I use today when I wanted to do the larger stage effects. Again, it uses a grease pencil lead, and it simply slides over the thumb. It's a band, and it's very stable. It's easy to get on and off. It's easy to write with, and it's very practical. You can change the lead easily just by knocking it out and putting a new piece in. So that's a band writer, both the large grease pencil type and the regular pencil lead type. Now we come to the boon gimmicks, invented initially by Eric Mason. And what they are is a round disc of metal with a lead sticking out and adhesive on the back side, blue tack, magician's wax. It sticks to your thumb and it's easy to get on and off. Now, I do have one problem with this type of gimmick. Normally, the gimmick is stuck on a small piece of plastic that you keep in your pocket so as to protect the stickum on the back, the blue tack. So you can peel it off and get it on your thumb when you get ready to work. However, when you want to get rid of it and you just knock it off your thumb and it falls into your pocket, it's liable to pick up lint from inside your pants or jacket pocket, and pretty soon that stickum on the back isn't nearly as sticky as you would like it to be. So outside of that, it's a very popular type of writer, and you can get this type also available with the grease pencil lead. Finally, we come to the undernail writers. Now, the initial writer shown in Corinda was simply a little bit of metal, bent metal, with a pencil lead sticking out. That was the initial kind of Swami gimmick. It was very small, and the problem was two things. It was so small that it was not stable. It was not stable, and it was easy to pop off your finger, and it also was difficult to write with, too, because it didn't have the wings on to secure it. I've never even seen one, let alone own one, outside of pictures of them. That quickly became replaced by this type of writer you see over on the right-hand side, which has a wing under it that slips underneath your thumbnail. And this is the type that I prefer, and the type I actually use all the time is the type imported from India, and they're very inexpensive. 4 come to a package, and they're just they're a little bit larger, which I prefer, because that allows me to clip the writer between my fingers inside my pocket and just slip my thumbnail right in there and ready to go. Now, the biggest criticism you hear about using this type of writer is people say, well, my thumbnail is not long enough to use that type of writer with. I don't consider my nails to be over long. That's my thumbnail. I try to keep them about as long as I see in magazine shots where I have professional hand models posed for those. You have to remember the gimmick doesn't have to fit entirely underneath your thumbnail. It can be sticking out and still be very secure. But I'll tell you the secret to making this type secure. When you buy these and get them, they're painted. It's supposedly flesh paint, but it's actually almost white, and it's shiny. And it makes the gimmick slippery, plus it fills up the little area inside where you want your thumbnail to go. So the first thing I do is to take them and put them on a piece of newspaper and take it outside of my back porch, spray it with paint remover, and then wait 10 minutes or so, bring them in, put it under the faucet with a no toothbrush and get rid of the paint. What you're left with is just this brass finish, which is fine. No one's going to see that if you handle the writer correctly. And all of a sudden, when you try it on, you're going to be amazed to see that it just becomes twice as secure as it was before. It's easier to get on, it stays on, it's nice and secure, and it lasts that way. There's another advantage to this type of writer, whereas these other type, like this is an old Kirkendale from years ago, and this over here is a Johnson nail writer, and they have little tubes in them, and the pencil lead is the type you see with mechanical pencils that you have to slide in there. For this type of writer, you can just chop off the end of a pencil and take out the lead, so it's nice and thick in the base, and it comes to a nice point. And what I find so good about that is that sharp point that it comes to perfectly matches the lead inside a mechanical pencil. In my case, I use the Cross mechanical pencil, and if I were to write with that and then that, it's virtually identical. Sometimes when the lead starts wearing and the line gets a little broad, I just take a file and file it down and make it sharp again. And eventually when the lead becomes too short, then I just knock it out and put a brand new lead in. And one final thought on this type of writer. I have just found myself that a longer lead like this is actually easier to write with. And I want you to think about that for a second, because imagine when you're writing with a pen or pencil. If you hold it way over here, your hand has to move as you write. Whereas if you hold it back like this, you see your hand moves a lot less. Consequently, when you're wearing a nail writer with a longer lead, your thumb actually moves less than if it's a real short lead, and your thumb has to move around, and that's what you want to avoid, telegraphing that your thumb is moving, because the back part of your thumb shows over the card or whatever you're writing on. So there you have it. Step 1, different types of Swami gimmicks.
Even though I know a few of you and I've met you before, nothing has been set up. I mean, and I have not approached anybody. That's vital, you know that. Because especially today with TV, you know, you see all these things on TV and you say, man, something must have been happening behind the scenes here. Well, you know what happened. You all know what happened today. You walked in and you came in here and you had a little coffee and a donut or something and came in here, and that's it. And nothing further has been set up. I haven't talked to anybody. And this is an effect that Corinda calls the opener. You right there, would you stand? Do I know you?
No.
What's your name?
Anita.
Anita. Nice to meet you, Anita.
Nice meeting you.
I've not talked to you, met you in any way, shape, or form.
No.
Anita, this is going to sound strange, but please do exactly what I say.
Okay.
In a second, I'm going to say now, and I want you to call out loud a 3-digit number. Now.
622.
Why? Tell me why.
My birthday.
Your birthday. See, I knew there was a reason beyond the fact that it was just a choice. You saw me standing here with a card in my hand. I want you to take the card, read out loud to everybody exactly what's written on there.
Number 622.
No way.
Yes way.
So let's talk about some of the effects that are featured in step 1 of Corinda and the tricks with the Swami gimmick. I think the first one is just simply called an opening effect.
Right, and I'm going to use that to show a few different ways to go with that.
Right.
But it's a very standard effect, and the way Corinda treats it, I get the feeling like maybe half the mentalists back then started with this effect. It's a great effect because you walk out on stage and somebody calls out a number, you throw out a card to them, and there's a number. It establishes you immediately as, hey, he's a mind reader. Mm. And so it's still, I mean, that's a powerful, powerful effect. And there are different ways to do it. First of all, you don't have to visually write the prediction in front of anyone. You walk out with a card in your hand, point to somebody and say, name a number from 1 to 1,000. They name it, zing, and it says on it, you know, you will select, or you will say number 472 or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's a stunner. I've learned, I use this a lot, and I've learned a few things about using this effect. Number one, you have to get the guy talking in the audience. You know, what's your name? And he names it. If it's not loud enough, I'm sorry, louder. You know, get him speaking out so that after you toss the card out and he reads out loud the number, everyone can hear him because obviously it's not visual, it's audio. They have to hear him say the number. As far as what you write on, and here's where I want to touch upon some different thoughts, because you could use any of the different ways I'm about to show you as the opening effect. A lot of times, if I decide on the spur of the moment that I'm going to do this just before I walk out on stage, maybe the crowd is a bit noisy and I want to get their attention, I grab a business card out of my pocket and I quickly write on the back, you will say, and sign it in the bottom. Okay. I walk out on the stage with it, and I'll have the nail writer on, and as soon as I point to somebody, get them to speak up, name a number from 1 to 1,000, write it on the card, toss it out to them, and there you go. Another way to do this is to use a larger card. Here's a file card. All right. Now, one of the advantages of using a file card is this. A business card you would expect to hold in one hand. To hold a business card in two hands maybe doesn't look quite right. A file card, holding a file card like this looks better because it's bigger. All right. And so you give yourself a little bit more stability. You could use a card like this, which is fairly stiff. If you have a stiffer card, it becomes easier to write to with one hand. All right. Because you can support it. I'm going to give you a new idea I just came up with. Okay. I didn't use it in the show, but I'm trying to show some different ways to do some of these classic effects during these explanations. This is a Post-it note pad. And as a matter of fact, this is one of the new ones that's called Super Sticky Post-it Note. Mm-hmm. Here's the Post-it Sticky here. Mm-hmm. If you take a pad like this and hold it like this, with the sticky part against your fingers, it's stuck to your hand. From the front, it just looks like you're holding a pad. But your thumb is free. So you can be writing with one hand effortlessly, because the pad stays right in place. I write right over where my middle finger is, so the thing doesn't tilt this way or this way. Just right over my, you know, if I want to write 729, I can do that without ever touching it with my other hand, 729, and it looks supported at the entire time. Okay. So this is something I've not seen talked about anywhere, just a regular Post-it pad, and use that idea. Now, in another video, I showed a method which I called inside the fold. Right. And that method, it was an index card. Larger. This is a larger 6x4. You can use 3x5. and it's folded this way and this way. It's off-folded first so that there's a little ledge on the side. Then it's off-folded this way so that your thumb can easily get inside the card. A little bowl like this. This very much resembles the billet reading effect I did on Easy to Master Mental Miracles, where you press in and it opens the whole thing. But for this purposes, we're getting inside to write on it.
Okay.
And I called it inside the fold because you could come out and you have this card in your hand, somebody names a number, and you can take it and give it to them. They have to open it up. So that seems impossible. How could you have written on it when it's all folded? And in addition, it puts 3 folds of material under the writing area, so it's very stable. So that has become a very popular method. I use this all the time, but now I've come up with one addition to it.
All right.
And it's the first time. I'm kind of proud of this. Here's an envelope, a larger pay envelope, and what I did was to run a knife down here to separate the seam, like that, right down to where the other flap is on this end. Now you prepare this inside the fold envelope, and you put it into the envelope, or inside the fold card, I'm sorry. Right. You put it inside the envelope, just like this, and then you lick just the part that's going to come down on the top flap, so you get this. You see?
Okay, yep.
Now, this is open for a reason. Here's the cool part. First of all, the card can only come down so far. It can't accidentally stick out the bottom, so you're safe in holding up the envelope. You can get your thumb in there when you're holding it and write, just like you can with just the card. So here you are like this. And after you've written, here's the neat thing. This would just slide right up inside the envelope. It actually will fit all the way over, and you can squeeze it down like this. And so now you have what appears to be a sealed envelope, which you can just take this part of the flap that's not sealed down. And see, the reason that's not sealed down, let me just explain this, is twofold. If it were sealed down, like that, you would have more trouble getting inside the card. It would be holding the card shut. Like that. Whereas if it's loose, it allows the card to open more. But in addition, after you've written on the card, and the card is back inside the envelope, like that, to open it, you can just get your thumb under there real easy, rip it open like that, and see it looks like the card is coming from inside. But half it, of course, was under that other flap. So just another layer of deception put on top of that idea. So the opening effect, you walk out, pick somebody in the audience, name a number, zing, read the number, they read it. It's important that the audience hears them. And all of a sudden, you're a mind reader. Now, yesterday, when we did the live show, a whole bunch of people were in the front row who had never seen me before. Right. And so I needed to establish myself right away with them. And right after that effect, you could see them going, whoa.
Yeah, what's this?
What's this about? You know, this is different. So, very powerful effect.
I wanted to show you something. I call this one a stage effect, if you will, because, you know, that one there was kind of mostly for you and me, but I want to do something that involves a number of people. What's your name?
Tracy.
Tracy. I just marked up my pen here, Tracy. You're going to be number 1.
Okay.
Okay. Tracy, write something for you. Do you have any animals, Tracy?
Any what?
Animals, pets? Did you ever have a pet? A dog?
Yes.
Interesting. Hold that. How old were you when you had the dog?
About 10 to 18-ish.
10 to 18-ish. Did you have it a long time?
Yeah.
Okay. Need someone else to help me here. You, right there in front. I'm picking people I've never met before. You, what's your name?
Kelly.
Stand up, Kelly. Kelly, you're number 2. By the way, do any, and not you, because I remember we did this before and you had pesos in your pocket or something crazy like that, but do any of you have any loose change? Do any of you have any loose change, any coins? Well, no. Anybody? You have, sir? What's your name?
Scott.
Scott. Take out 3 or 4 coins and hold them in your hand, Scott, but don't open them up and don't look at what you got. Okay. Here, I'm going to write something. You're number 2. Okay. I'm writing something for you here. Okay. Now, you got a person in mind. Somebody's close to you. And let me come over here. Number 3. That's going to be, what was your name again?
Scott.
You got your coins in your hand now? I'm going to go with this. Give me number 1 back. And here, take my pen. You had a dog. So you can sit down for a second. By the way, what was your friend's name that you were thinking? Scott, I thought so. What was the dog's name? Grizzly. Was it a big dog? Is that why you named it Grizzly?
Yeah, pretty much.
What kind of dog was it?
Mackenzie River Malamute White Shepherd and Timberwolf.
Wow. And you had it for how long?
About 8 to 10 years.
8 to 10 years. And were you talking to anybody today about this dog before you walked in here? No?
About him in a couple of years, probably.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I did a show for President Ford when he was still alive, Gerald Ford, and I did this with him. And he thought of the first dog that he ever had in his life when he was a little boy. You know, when I did this for him, he was like in his 90s, just before he passed on. And he remembered his dog. He could remember his first dog's name. You know, things like that, like pets are close to you. And you remembered your first dog, Grizzly. So did I.
Okay. Wow.
Give me number 2. Thank you. Now this person, Scott, is not the same Scott, any Scott here, right? Who's Scott that you know?
My son.
Your son, Scott.
Yeah.
And he's how old?
He's 34.
34, yeah. He wears glasses, doesn't he?
No.
Sometimes doesn't he wear glasses?
Sunglasses.
Just sunglasses. Well, I saw somebody in my mind wearing sunglasses, and his name was Scott. Stand up. Count those coins. How much change do you have?
What, the total of the change?
Yeah.
32.
32 cents. Now, you got a quarter there, right?
Yes.
And you have a nickel
Yes.
and 2 pennies. And you didn't know that until you looked.
Right.
But I told you that before you even said anything. And I also wrote down 32 cents before you said anything, too. You're welcome.
Let's talk about the second effect you did in the show, which is simply called a stage trick in Corinda.
And, you know, it almost looks like it might be a one-ahead principle, but it's not. So this is kind of interesting because really you could vary the way you did it from show to show. You could use a one-ahead principle one time and this a different way. But there is a certain clean look to this. And obviously what you do is, well, this was in my pocket. This is the band China marker over here. And this is like a mechanical China marker. You could use one of the wooden ones.
Right.
But this just turns and it has the same exact lead.
Listo leads, I think they're called.
Yes, exactly. That's the brand name. As a matter of fact, I have boxes of these Listo leads. And this is, when I load this up, I just use this pen and I just slide it in there. If the opening on the writer is a little smaller than the lead, so you have to kind of force it in.
Okay.
And after I do that, then I just turn this to get as much lead sticking out as I want and take a sharp knife and cut it right there, and I'm ready to go. So this is the exact same lead that's in there, which is perfect. All right, so what I did was, and you can vary it. If you watch the presentation, you'll see that I varied when I wrote the different things. Right. And that's something that we should talk about as a general principle.
When you actually begin the writing.
When you begin to write. For instance, if you look at somebody and you say, name a number, like in the first effect, and they say 378,
right.
You say, could you repeat that? Or Or you could do what Corinda suggests, if they say 378, you might say 368, and they say, no, 378, and of course you're writing. And what happens is attention, name a number, they look at him, 368, they look back at you, what? Or 3 what? And they look back at him, and he says 368, and you've written it.
Right.
In that pause. Another thing that, another concept is movement. Now, this is a stage effect. When I perform in my writer, it talks about the stage. I think it's something like at least 20 feet long by 10 feet wide. It might even be bigger. It might be like 30 feet long by 15. That's in my writer. That's the kind of size stage I need. And because I usually work in a banquet room in a hotel for some business. So they set up the stage at one end and have the chairs and the stairs, and that's where I work. Right. I move that. I use every inch of that stage. When you do an effect like this, okay, I'm going to, let's say, have the first person. I think I had the first person think of a dog, didn't I? I wanted to get away from numbers, so I wanted to do different. You can use whatever category you wanted. I think the first one was a dog, if I'm not mistaken. So I wrote 1 on a card, turned it over, pretended to write, and set it down. Then I talked to them about the dog, but I never asked for the dog's name at that point. I said I didn't need it quite at that point. Right. And then I moved on to the second person, and I put number 2, and I forgot what the category, whatever. I pretended to write and set it down again, and then I actually went back, and I think at that point I might have looked at the first person and said, by the way, what was the dog's name? So nobody actually knows what the prediction is at the moment.
Right.
See, and that solves the problem of you saying, well, okay, what name are you thinking of? And they say to you, you tell me.
Right, okay.
Because if they don't know that's the important thing for the prediction, they're not going to be afraid to hold it back.
Right.
All right, so put it down. You ever have a dog? You've had a dog, and okay, well, let's go to number 2. What kind of dog was it?
Yeah.
And they talk about that and go back. By the way, what's the dog's name? And they're talking now, so yeah, they give you the name and you remember that. Okay, so now the second person, you're doing that. And then the third person I elected to do, the second, whatever, it could be a color, it could be a city. I saved the change in the pocket for the third person.
Okay.
And I used this idea in a previous video, but I decided to use it again because I like it so much. I said, take out 2 or 3 coins in your pocket and hold them in your hand, but don't count what they are. And I wrote 3 again.
Yep.
And you could write their names instead of the numbers, up to you. Pretend to write, and I think I put a cent sign at that point, so that this is where we were, and set it down. Drop the pen down, and of course, during the course of walking around, got the writer on. Now, this is where, on a bigger stage, I would be walking around with this thing in my hand, so that once I knew the dog's name, let's say the dog's name was Fido, so I need to write Fido on here. But right now I'm writing it, and if I just stand still, you might see my thumb moving around. But if I was standing and moving around all over the stage, you would never spot that.
Right.
And so then, I turned and showed the name of the, which that wasn't too as good as I could do, but sure. I'm better when I'm standing and moving around. Okay. But anyways, there's the dog's name. Okay, you give it back to them. Here, you could actually pick up 2 and 3 together if you want. There's so much latitude because what you're doing is you're doing it almost as though you were doing it for real. So you have all this flexibility. Mm-hmm. So let's just say, for instance, at this point I picked up 2. Right. And said, oh, by the way, what color were you thinking of? And they said the color red. Okay, again, why red? Has it always been red? And by that time I've written red and playing it into the patter, all of a sudden, boom, red. And if you review again the performance, you'll see how I used the patter to build up to the moment of the revelation, to almost surprise them, at a certain point, like suddenly turning it around, Then the third person, did you count the amount of, how much the total amount is? And in his case, and this is a clever little thing that I've always been fond of, he said 37 cents. Now, because I limited him to 3 or 4 coins, how else can you make 37 cents?
You need
a quarter, a dime, and 2 pennies. Or you need more coins, you see?
Right.
So by saying to him, but you had a quarter,
a dime and 2 pennies. Is that right? And he goes, yeah. It's like, you know, how could he know that? And that gives me all the time in the world to write in the 37 cents that I needed for the final prediction.
Right.
The lesson here is you have to be flexible and build the writing moment at the right time. If you're close up on stage, you can have this thing right in front of you. If you're close up, you want to keep it close to your chest. I mean, I do nail writing effects constantly where people are all around me. When I do that, just hold it close to me, and that's fine. There's no way anyone can see anything from any angle if it's up close to you. And as far as the moment of the writing, you need to control that. The moment should happen when intention is on the spectator. And there's so many different, you can miscall a number. What number was that? 472? Oh, 471. Or they call out a number 894. Why? Why did you pick that number? And that catches them off guard because why? Yeah. Well, why? You know, it's that moment, and that moment is great for writing. You know, sometimes people will say, "That's my address," or "That's my birth date." Right. Somebody, I think, said that yesterday. And if they do, yeah, I thought so. You know, we're talking, of course, in mentalism. One of the primary rules, if something falls your way, take advantage of it. Sure. If you say to somebody why, and they say, "Huh, it's my street number, it's my PIN number," anything like that, you just smile and say, "Yeah, I thought so," and people will buy that. If you can do it without a moment's hesitation and be smiling while you say it, it's like, man, how did we know that? Right. That's the answer you get.
It's all part of the context of the show.
Let me finish by talking about one last thing. The nail writer, as Corinda points out, or Swami Gimmick, is so incredibly versatile and so good and so direct that it's appropriate that he put it as the first step. There's almost nothing you can't do with the use of a nail writer. You can do mind reading, you can do predictions. Almost any effect you can accomplish with a nail writer. It's as effective as a stooge. I mean, it's that good. And so it is well worth investigating and practicing and just thinking about it all the time and how many different ways. As a matter of fact, later in another step, I'm going to show you how at the very last minute I came up with an effect using a nail writer that I hadn't even planned to do, and it turned out to be the perfect ending for that effect. Let's see, I need somebody to help me out here. What's your name, sir?
John.
John, come on up here. Give John a round of applause. Now, John, do you remember what I call this effect? Dartboard.
Dartboard, yeah.
Yes. And the reason I call it that, John, is because I've got a dartboard, okay? And, here's the thing. Now, how does this work? Who plays darts here? You said a little bit. Like when you hit in this area, that's the number, right? Like 20. But what do the other things mean? Just so I'll know. Like what's that? Double?
Double ring and triple ring.
Triple ring. And this is 100 in the middle and 50 around the edge, right? And in here, like that would be one, but that would be two, and that'd be four or three. That's how it works, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure we all agree on that. Hold that for a second. Because I'm just, let me, and I do this casually, so I'm going to do it the same way I would do it if I were, let's say, indulging with an adult beverage someplace in a bar where they had a dartboard at. Not that I would do that, of course, but if I had an adult beverage in a bar and there was a dartboard, I might do something like this. I'm going to write something on here. And you can't see it. And the reason I'm hedging here and not just doing it real quick is because I'm thinking about this, because I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to write yet. You play. Who else said they play darts here? Do you play darts at all? You do. You play darts. And I talked to you a second ago. What's your name again?
Donna.
Donna. Let me just write this here. Hold on. Okay. Now, just to make sure nothing gets changed or any nonsense like that, what's your name?
Jennifer.
Jennifer, nice to meet you, Jennifer. Jennifer, initial this for here and here.
Okay.
And just hold on to the pencil, okay? So I've made a prediction with this dartboard. And you say Donna, you play darts. Come on up here. Give her a round of applause. If you just stand here for a second, Donna. And John.
John.
Yeah. The problem, here's the problem. In a bar, you would see this thing hanging on the wall here. But look at what we have here. We have this beautiful, beautiful situation, where there's nothing I really want to hang this from. So I'll tell you what. There, that works good. Okay, just stand over here like this.
I'm not psychic, but I saw that coming.
You did. Now let me come over here. Louis, did you have these sharpened earlier like I asked you? Good, okay. Now, if you just turn this way over here. No, I'm trying to get you like a 45 here so the camera can see you, they can see you, and Don, if you stand right over there. Okay, now, Don, we're going to take the first dart. It's a magnetic dart. Okay. Okay. Now, wait. Okay.
I'm warming up.
I've already done something here. She's anxious, Yeah, you might consider... no, that's okay. Hey, you can hold it where you want, okay? You're not very good? Okay, give it a shot. Whoa, that was good. That was good.
Very good.
Okay, that's, here, take that. Second throw. What is that more? That's not more on the 8. Yep, and take this. Give it one more toss. I gotta get, let me see that for a second. Who had the paper? Yeah, keep the pencil. So, go ahead, you add them up. Well, that's what? Come over here. Throwing darts is her forte, not adding numbers. 14 times 2 is
28.
28.
That's the triple ring, though.
Is that the triple ring?
It's a triple ring. That's the triple ring. Yeah.
So how much is that?
52.
52.
52 and 8.
42. 42.
42.
Yeah.
This is going to be a long day, let me tell you. Well, so we have 42 and 8. That's 8, right?
Yeah.
So that's 50, right? And 4. 54 is what she threw. Now, I wrote something. I had you initial it so that there's no way I could do any sneaky business with this. Take it back, and you stand next to her. Open it up. Can we somehow open this up? We can see this on camera. Just open it up, and would you read out loud what it says?
The total will be 54.
Whoa.
All right, let's talk about this a little bit because you had quite a bit of fun with this.
Yeah, this turned out to be one of the highlights of the show. In Corinda is the dartboard prediction. And the way he explains it, evidently in English pubs, dartboards are very fashionable and they all have them. And so to suddenly, out of the blue, make a prediction and somebody throws 3 darts and you predicted the total, that's amazing.
Sure.
It's a great effect. I remember my friend Ronnie Gann. Mm-hmm. He used to play a lot of golf. And he used to do that on the golf course with, predicting scores.
Predict the score.
Yeah, and it was perfect because, little golf pencils are all, pencils, so perfect to go with the Swami Gimmick. Ronnie used to use a Swami a lot,
He was great.
Yeah, he was wonderful. So anyways, there's this dartboard prediction in there. And what we try to do is recreate or show the effects out of Corinda, but to try to modernize them and adapt them for the situation that we had to work with.
Sure.
And in here, really, would you, with all the lights and the backdrop, and where would you hang a real dartboard and have people throwing darts? And I guess we had decided early on, better to use something like a magnetic dartboard or something like this, or one of those Velcro deals. Mm-hmm. And then the idea
of hanging it over somebody's neck came up.
Right.
And we said, wow, that is so funny, because that's a bit now.
Right.
Now you got an entertaining bit where you get somebody up and you talk about darts, and all of a sudden you bring out the dartboard and you look around like, where am I going to put it? You know, and in this case, the fellow knew we were going to hang it around his neck, and
Yep.
sure enough. And of course, you don't have to let people know they're not real darts. If you hold them like this, everybody looks over, you know, and I think I even had a little fun. You know, I called over and said, hey, Louis, did you sharpen these darts up
Yeah.
like I asked you, or something like that? And it's a fun bit, you know, and it's almost like the Copperfield thing where he gets ready to throw the brick, and then at the last minute
Right.
he shows him it's a spongy rubber brick. So that's what we did here. At the last minute we showed them that, you know, it's just the magnetic darts. And as far as the prediction goes, anything will work. I always have my little pads in my pocket. Always. I mean, I use them for grocery lists and you name it, but I'm ready to go for a center tear or any number of things. I used it a number of different ways in these videos. Well, it's perfect for the prediction. Now, I did something there that was very important. I might have used a card or whatever, but that's unimportant. The important thing is you have the prediction. What I did is I wrote down my prediction and I set it down on the table. Now, later, what I did was during the dart game, when he was throwing it, I casually picked this up when he was like getting ready to throw the third dart, second or third dart, and got it ready to write in the total.
Okay.
And then I think I set it back down again. Well, that sticks in the mind. You write a prediction and then you set it down. People later remember, yeah, he set it down on the table.
They don't remember you picking it back up.
Yeah, not if you do it casually, like the guy's throwing darts and you're joking around, you know, and you just pick this up. As you saw yesterday, I do a number of routines with some of the most blatant switches and blatant swindles. Do it casually and just move right along, and it goes right by. And in this case, any prediction where you make the prediction, and if you set it down with a bit of a flair, you know, you take and you write your prediction out, and you put that down, you go like that, people assume you're not going to touch it again. Mm-hmm. And they put it out of their mind. Then later, if you just casually are throwing darts, you know, and just pick it up like that, and you're looking and not paying attention, and get yourself all ready to go. The second you know the total,
yep,
write it in, and you can even set it back down again. Now, the last thing I want to point out was I made sure I explained what the double and triple things were,
right,
and all that before we began. So we wouldn't have to waste time at the very end I mean, it did happen.
Arbitrating the score, yeah.
Yeah, or what the rules are.
Right.
And I made it almost as though, okay, well, I want to make sure I understand how this works before I make my prediction. One of the primary things to remember in all of mentalism at all times is think effect first. Nothing else matters as much as effect. Don't be backward thinking like a lot of guys are these days where they have apparatus. What can I do with it?
Right.
Or what can I use this principle? Don't think that way. Think effect first. If you're really going to do this for real, how could you write a prediction unless you knew for sure what does this mean and what does that mean? Mm-hmm. Because I'm supposedly going to predict where these darts end up, and I'm going to write the score. How can I do that unless I know this is double and this is triple? And if you get that effect mind state going, you won't make stupid mistakes like that.
Right.
If you think like you would think if you really were going to do this stuff, then you think of the little things like that that become the beautiful provers throughout the routine, the things that make people accept what you do and not question little thing you do.
Right.
And again, there's going to be other effects that we're going to do where little things like that matter. So, like the one where later on we'll talk about where she wrote 11111.
Right, right.
I could have kept that and did it, but by pointing it out, saying no, this is not going to work. You know, this is not the kind of number. It becomes real. Mm-hmm. And if I were doing it for real in that state of mind, yeah, I don't want a number like that. You know, that's not the kind of number I'm talking about. Same way here. Just before we're going to do it, wait a minute now. I got to know this for sure. This is double and this is triple, right? Yeah. And then if you review the tape, you say, okay, give me a second here. Okay, I'm going to go with this. Almost as though in my mind, I'm seeing three darts, you know, and in my mind I'm saying, okay, let's see, that's 999, that's 27, and that's 37, 39, 49, 56. Okay. You see? That's the mental state. In this effect, the mental state is, I see the 3 darts. Okay, got to add up what they are, and okay, this is a prediction. You see? That thinking process makes the whole thing look so real that later when you pick it up and go, look at what I predicted, it becomes not just I predicted this number, but it becomes I predicted where these darts landed.
Yeah.
See? And that's what you always have to think of. Thank you. What's your name? Kenna. Did I meet you before, Kenna? I thought so. Well, we have not set up anything. No. Okay. Kenna, you know, sometimes the reason, in case you're wondering, like, why yellow cards? Why has he got yellow cards instead of white cards? Sometimes if you ever notice, like, if you watch late night TV and you watch Letterman or Leno, a lot of times they'll have blue cards because on camera, pure white glares. So that, just so you know, because people say to me, well, what's the deal with, did somebody steal my pen? Well, I meant the other one. You gave it back to me? Oh, hold on a second. Here we go. I got it. Okay. And Kenna, but we've not set up anything here. Start by just putting your name up here. And up top. Yeah, if you want. That way we'll know, no sneaky business. Just like before when I did that with 3 people, I numbered them so you would know, you know, I'm not doing any sneaky stuff here. Lincoln. Okay, Kenna. And you excuse my handwriting, it's not nearly as good as yours. Mm-hmm. Oh man, let me go with this. And I'll sign it on the bottom so that's official. And you hold it here, Angela. Angela, no peeking. Okay. You got a reputation, you know, so okay. Kenna, if you come up here. Kenna, over here on this table, let me just move them to the edge so you can see them. There's some newspapers. Okay. Yeah, go over there. Check them out. There's. I haven't even looked at them. We brought them in this morning or yesterday. What's that? The Sacramento Bee. Next one is what? The Reno Gazette. And what's the last one?
The San Francisco Chronicle.
Pick any one you want. Okay. Now, obviously, this paper's San Francisco Chronicle. Obviously, the paper's got all kinds of pages. Just pull a single page out of there. You can, like, take your time and unfold a few pages, look them over. You know, get something that's wordy. You know, don't get like a page with all pictures. I get something that's wordy. Okay, she found one. I'll stand over here. Now, I'm not saying, no, you stand there, I'll stand here. I'll stand away from her so you won't think that I'm nudging her or anything as much as I like to. No, I'm not nudging her or anything like that. Okay, now, tear it in half, right down the middle. Okay, tear it in half again. Okay, now put it back together again. No. I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. Kenna, keep one of the papers. Any one you want. And toss the other ones down. Tear that one in half again. Okay? Keep either one that you want. Keep something with words on it. Tear it in half the other way. Keep either half. Tear it in half one more time. I'm not looking at you, but one half has a lot more words than the other, doesn't it?
Yes.
Keep that half. Can I see that back? I know where I want her to go, but I have no way to make her go that way except with my mind. Bring your finger right down in the center of that page. There's words. All around there's words. You're going to pick a word right by where your finger is.
Okay.
It's not too long a word, not too short a word, is it? What is the word?
Pose.
What?
Pose.
Spell it.
P-O-S-E.
P-O-S-E, pose. For a second I thought you said poem. I was going to say, oh man. Now there's another word that you could have picked there instead, right? It was right around there.
Yes.
And what word was that?
Weapons.
Weapon. But you didn't pick weapon. You decided to pick pose, P-O-S-E. And in a second, I'm going to show you something. I want you to take the card.
No way.
Yes, way. Read out loud just what it says.
You will settle on pose.
On pose. I knew she would go back and forth between weapons and pose, and that's why, Kenna, you did a wonderful job. I'll pay you the $100 later outside in the parking lot. Thank you. Thank you very much, folks. Here you go.
All right, let's talk about what Corinda called a first-class newspaper effect.
And it is. Did you see how it played?
It did play very well.
Years ago, I sent away for a trick that I saw advertised, and it said, we have newspaper, famous newspaper headings like the Hindenburg and the World War II and everything else. It said, and the effect is you show all these and then you predict which one the Spectator chooses. And I said, yeah, that's worth it, and I sent away for it. And I got the newspapers, and they were reproductions, and a nail writer.
Okay.
That was it. And I got mad at first. I said, what? A nail writer? And all you did was have to write the number of this is newspaper 1, 2, 3, and 4. But I was stupid because
you thought it would be some really clever toy, but
that was the best way to go. And this again shows how important a nail writer is. This is a great effect. Pick any page from a real newspaper. They tear it in half. They tear it in half again and again and again. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. You got total freedom. Then bring your hand down on the page and name any word, and that's the word you predicted.
Yep.
That's great stuff. You can just dream this stuff up. You can do what I said in the last effect. You can dream effect up in your mind and just go ahead and do it with the nail writer.
Yep.
And that's what this. I'm not even going to bother ripping it off. What's the point? The point is you could, if you wanted to, you could say, okay, here, open it. Put your finger down on the page. What word did you touch? And boom, you've done it that way.
The method is simple, but this may be a good time to talk about the fact that in this case, instead of writing a number, which is relatively simple, here you're going to have to write a word, and it may be a complex word. And so what are your suggestions on ways people should practice nail writing to get proficient at writing actual words?
Do it.
Just do it over and over.
Yeah, both in practice and in real life. I'm sure you've read and heard before, it doesn't matter how neat the handwriting is as long as they can read it. And that's really important. I've done shows where, okay, well, name any city you want. Sacramento,
Yeah.
And I'm, scribbling, almost scribbling it like I would handwrite. But if it looks like Sacramento, that's it. They still flip out, Nobody cares about, if I were going to write Sacramento for real with a pen, I might do it that sloppy. So, so also don't look when you're writing. Practice writing without looking.
Okay.
And you can use printing or you can use handwriting.
Okay.
If you use printing, S is easy, A would be easy, sac, ra. You can even mix and match. Sometimes you can put an A like that. Sometimes you can use that kind of A. You have to learn to make your letters in like that with one stroke as opposed to boom, boom, boom. E, I always make E's like that because it's easier to do that than try to do this and hit the lines at the right place. See, that's where you make mistakes with nail writers. T's, E's, if you make a T, that's good, but if you do this or you do this, that's a problem. E's are hard if you try to do them the way you might normally write them because you might get this, one of those type deals. Whereas if you make an E like that, it's an E. The same thing with N, one stroke, mento, that's pretty sloppy, but that's good enough.
Right. As long as they can read it. I mean, the assumption is that you just have
Yeah.
atrocious handwriting, I guess.
Yeah, well, you're doing it on the
You're doing it
fly.
fast, right.
Yeah, you know, and you're tapping into psychic stuff. So, whoa, yeah, I'll go with this, you know. So it's only, you know, and, you know, if you want to, okay, that's Jim. That's a terrible, but it's still Jim.
Readable, yeah.
Yeah, it's a readable Jim. Even if it's real sloppy, as long as it's readable, that's okay. But you'll find, and here's the thing, again, if you when you get used to doing this stuff and talking, you find that you buy yourself time. You know, in this case, you can always recap. Like, okay, they've done all this and they've come up with Sacramento. You got to write Sacramento. So you pick up the prediction as they're finishing and they say Sacramento. Say, you know, let me remind you. You could have chosen any one of 3 newspapers. I let you pick any page. You could see they were all different. I let you tear it in half again and again. And all this time, you got to write. And, of course, as I was saying, on the stage, you're moving around, you know. You might even move behind the person and look over their shoulder and say, you know, you took this piece and you brought your finger down. If you don't have enough time to write in all that time, you know, you need another line of work. So at the worst, if you need more time to write something, recap. Recapping always works.
Okay.
Okay. We hustled you guys in here from everyone else is eating right now, but I want to show you a few things up close with just you folks. Does anyone here smoke? I know you're willing to admit that.
I smoke.
In California.
In California.
Now, we did not set up anything here at
No.
all. And, you know, where's your cigarettes?
Got it back right here.
Leave them in there.
Okay.
Right there. Take out your cigarettes. We fancy smoke camels. He's a real man, huh?
Camel.
Take them and dump them out on the table.
Dump them out on the table.
Yeah.
Pull them all out?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What do we got? Count them for me.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16.
Did you just have one after lunch?
I did.
You did?
I did, yes.
So you had 17 in there before, but then you
I just put one out before you pulled me in.
Oh, okay, because you didn't know what I was gonna. You didn't know what I was.
I was just having an after lunch cigarette.
Yeah, because I'll tell you why. Because I had a change of heart, but I changed my mind.
What?
Turn it over.
Scotty has 16 cigs.
Now, who said they have some coins? Where were your coins? How much you got? How much do you think she has? I'm gonna. Don't take it out. Don't take it out. I mean, don't count it yet. Marissa says M-A-R, 1 R?
M-A-R-I-S-A.
Okay, yeah, I thought so. 1 R. Okay, I'm gonna go with this. This may be wrong. How much you got? Throw it on the table.
73.
That's what I wrote.
No way.
Yes, I swear. You know, I showed it to her.
I believe you. I believe
Yeah.
you.
Kenna, I'm going to try something here with you. Here's, I wrote 1 through 5 on this pad, okay? Now, I don't know you. You live around here. I'm from Kentucky. You must have, like, have friends, but you must also have a few people, relatives, or people you've known who have passed on. I want you to write one name of somebody who's passed on after one of these numbers, and the other 4 numbers just fill in living names. We'll have 1 dead name, 4 living names. But it's up to you where you put that dead name, you know, and how you do it. You could, like, write a couple living names first, then a dead name, then a couple living names, or you could write all the living names first. Well, however you want to do it. Don't let anybody see. Okay? Now watch out for Marisa, because I've seen her and she peeks. She peeks. I just don't want anybody thinking that I'm somehow being cued, you know, by somebody else, because, you know, it's not how I work. There are some people they'll have other people help them.
Right.
Okay, well, we're not going to do that here. You know, this is totally just me, and we'll see what happens. Yeah, exactly.
Just whatever happens.
Exactly. Sometimes it works. You know, people don't believe that. But Scotty's been here, seen a lot of home shows. So well, sometimes stuff just doesn't work, and you got to do it again.
Right?
Yeah. Did you do it?
Okay, I did.
Okay. So one of these people here is somebody who's passed on, and the other one's, the person who passed on was close to you.
Yes.
Okay. And the person wasn't that old, were they?
No, they were fairly old.
Well, who was it?
My grandfather,
What's his name?
Stuart.
I'm sorry?
Stuart?
What name did I check off?
No.
Wow. You checked off.
2 thumbs up.
Out of those
Oh my
5 names,
gosh.
you just knew which.
Wait.
Thank you very much.
Wow.
Let's talk about those 3 effects that you did kind of as a group for a much smaller group. It wasn't for the main audience. You just had a few people aside, and you did these 3 effects. And again, the MO was the nail writer.
And they represent how I personally use a nail writer almost always.
Okay.
I really don't have a part in my show, unless it's the opener, where I've got a set piece that uses a nail writer. I have a nail writer. I always carry 2, one in my pants pocket, one in my coat pocket, and I'm just ready to go at any time that I need it. And those 3 effects that we demonstrated at the table with just a few people are the kind of effects that I'll do all the time.
Right.
Like, for instance, okay, here, let me show you something. Or I might start by saying, and again, you don't always have to give the effect away before you do it. For instance, I'm trying to recall, we did so much, but I said to Scotty, you smoke, right? Do you have any cigarettes on you? Write a number, not saying I'm going to predict how many cigarettes you got in your pack.
Right, he has no idea. He knows it involves cigarettes, but has no idea exactly what. Okay.
And so I write the number, and then I say, okay, take out the pack of cigarettes, dump them out. Dump them out? Yeah, dump them out. Okay, and then I'll count them. And then I threw that little thing off. Wait a minute, wasn't there one more? Didn't you just have one, you know, a few minutes ago? Well, yeah, I was outside on the porch. And that, little things like that add so much. And of course, by then I picked it up. And again, saying something like that is like, well, yeah, I just had one. And everybody looks, how do you know that? You know? And in all that time, 16 or whatever the number was, and put it back down and say, but now you have 16. Yeah. You know, little flare at the end, slap it down, you know. And killer, right?
Yep, sure.
Same thing with a coin. There's a couple of effects, and let's talk about this real quick here. The same effect is in 2 different places in Corinda. One is called a close-up quickie, and the other one is called Bartender's Nightmare. It's basically the same effect, where somebody takes a coin and holds it against your forehead, and then you write down something, and then they find a date, and you've predicted that date. But it's also in the blindfold section of the book. And again, it's elaborated on. Whereas you're sitting, let's say, at a bar, and you get a napkin, and somebody blindfolds you, and then when you're blindfolded, somebody else takes a coin and holds it against your forehead, and you're blindfolded, and you write a prediction down, and now you take the blindfold off, what's in the date on the coin, and you turn it over, and that's what you've written. See, same effect, but now you've added a blindfold, and a lot of people, when they work with something like a nail writer, don't go through the trouble of adding those extras on. That's important. You know, just because it's a simple method doesn't mean you can't make the effect really elaborate. You know, so it helps so much by putting a few extra layers on the effect. Because you can do it. It doesn't matter. You know, you can do something where you're going to predict something, and at the last minute say, you know, now you've done all this, pick anyone you want in the audience and have them come up and make the final choice. Or flip a coin, and, you know, heads is this, tails is that. How could I control the flip? Anything like that. You can just do it.
And then on a more serious note, you did the living and dead test.
Right. And, you know, if there's anything that is a great way to start training with a nail writer. It's this. You hand, and you have to make sure, of course, that no one is offended by that. And the only way, they always say that, living and dead tests have a funny feeling. Well, only if you're not careful about it. If you say to somebody, okay, I'm going to have you write 5 names down, 4 of whom are people who you know and are alive, and maybe 1 who's passed on. Do you have like a relative who's passed on a while ago, you don't mind writing their name down? And, that assures you that they're not going to write down like somebody, maybe they lost their brother last week,
Sure,
or something like that's not what you want. You have a grandfather or an uncle or somebody passed away a while ago, put their name down under one number and the other 4 names under the other numbers. Now, again, here you can dress it up. Here's where I said, you can write the dead name first and the living names next, or you can write a couple living names, then that name, then the other couple. You can do whatever you want, in whatever order you want. I don't care. I'm looking away. That all seems to make it so much fair, and what do you care?
Sure.
And, of course, now here is the, let me just do this real quick. Let me just put names, James, Bill, John, Jeff, and Gertrude, okay? So let's just say these are the names that were written down. So now you got the nail writer on. But listen to the wording, how this, and you can review it when I did it. Because I remember the first time I did this years ago, it suddenly dawned on me how clever the wording is. Because you're looking at them like that, and you pick up the pencil, and you pretend to make a check mark, and you throw it down, and you say, okay, I can't change my mind now. That's always a good thing to say. What name is the name of the person who's passed on? And let's say they say Jeff. And, of course, all you got to do is put a check next to it. And I set it down and read out loud the name that I wrote the check next to. And they say Jeff. See, it sounds better. And it makes it seem more dramatic,
Yep.
It almost sounds like you predicted the name itself instead of just put a little check next to something.
And like you said, just because someone has to make just a check with a nail writer, it would give them a lot of confidence. It's a great routine to give people confidence using the gimmick.
And it doesn't have to be, living and dead test,
Right.
It could be anything, see, that's the beauty of the nail writer. Dream it up. You can do it.
Yeah. You could have somebody write the name, just various names, but one of them is one of the names of their children.
Or why even names? You could say, okay, so you could hand the things to somebody and say, write down 5 different magazines. Mm-hmm. And then you take it back and you say, look at these. And take it back and say, okay, in your mind, you're thinking of one that you might be likely to buy as opposed to the others.
Yep.
Okay, which one would you buy? And they say, People magazine. And what name did I check off? People magazine, you see?
Very versatile.
And it comes across at the end almost like, think of a magazine. What magazine were you thinking of? People magazine. What magazine did I write down? People magazine.
Right,
That's what it sounds like at the end. Tom and I were talking this morning or yesterday morning about the ta-da effect of mentalism. And you get that in Corinda a lot, where stuff can happen that doesn't necessarily make all the most sense in the world ahead of time. But at the end, if you got a ta-da, it just seems to justify it all. And in this case, it's a simple thing, but at the end, what name, were you thinking of, Jeff, and what name did I pick? You could even say it that way. Instead of saying, what name did I check, you could say, and what name did I pick, or what name did I forecast, or what name did I know you were going to say? You could word it, and they say, Jeff. Ta-da! What's happened up till then
The actual
fades.
mechanics kind of fade into the
Exactly.
Step 2, pencil, lip, sound, and muscle reading.
Pencil, lip, sound, and muscle reading offer a unique approach to mentalism. These are effects that are really little used and known by many mentalists, and yet they can be some of the strongest effects imaginable. For effects that require almost no gimmicks, that produce really powerful, powerful mentalism, this is the step to study.
Jennifer, I've never met you before, and you have no idea what we're about to do. I'm going to try something that's very difficult. And again, you know, this is stuff that I'm trying here that is outside the scope of what I feel comfortable doing, because this is some of these ideas in this book are difficult. Like, for instance, up till now, I've been trying to get thoughts out of your mind, or maybe know where are you going to throw darts. How about if I try to project thought from my head to your head? Now this may or may not work, and this, I'm serious about this. So if it doesn't work, I'm just going to say, move on, or maybe try it with somebody else. But for now, we're going to try it with Jennifer. Jennifer, I'm going to have you sit down right there. Okay. Now, Jennifer, I've got a little slate, and in a moment, you're going to write a 3-digit number. You're going to write it like about this big, you know, right there across the top. Just hold that. But you're not going to do it yet, because I'll tell you how we're going to try this here. This is the hard part. I'm going to write a target. Okay? Okay. Here's what I want you to do. Hold the board up. So, you don't have to do that. Just, you know, just like you have it now. Okay, I'm going to try one number at a time. I've got a target number. I'm looking at the first digit now. Go ahead, you write down what you believe is the first digit that you pick up from my mind. Go ahead, do it. I'm going to try a second digit right now. Go ahead, try, see what you get. Was that a 6 by any chance? I thought so. I'm going to try one more digit, one last digit. Go ahead, write it down. Well, I had a target number in my mind. And I'll tell you what the number was before I even ask you what number you wrote down. 367 is what I was trying to project to her. 367.
Now, the second step of Corinda is pencil, lip, sound, and muscle reading.
Yes.
And probably of all the various topics that we had to consider putting this together, that was the slipperiest slope, I think.
Yeah, that was a little tough, because some of the things in there, like let's say lip reading, okay? I use lip reading sometimes, but not as a separate effect. If you can train yourself as you're doing something, if somebody says something to somebody else and you can catch a word or two, that can be a tremendous advantage if you can pick that up. But to base an effect around, let's say, lip reading, that's like, for instance, there's one in there where he talks to a Buddha.
Whispering Buddha.
Whispering Buddha, and you're supposed to lip read. And I'm sorry, I tried that all kinds of ways, and every time I would do it, somebody would cover their, you know. It's like
the chances of failure are fairly high.
Yeah. Whereas on the fly, you know, somebody selects a card or something, or writes a number down secretly, and I say, you know, if you want to tell somebody else just to make sure, sometimes I'll catch that, you know, out of the corner of my eye, and I will lip read. I'll spot that. But it's not something that I can guarantee is going to happen.
Right.
Just like pencil reading. Mm-hmm. Pencil reading, which is, of course, watching the tip of the pencil, and from that movement, being able to decipher what they wrote, is an iffy thing. It depends how they're holding the pad, how much of the pen you can see or not see, and all the rest.
What happens if someone turns away?
Yeah,
if your directions, your spectator management isn't spot on, you tell them to write something, and then some people tend to turn away and write something.
Right.
And then what?
Then you're stuck. If that's the only out you have, the only way to go. Right. So, but for this effect, I still wanted to do something that demonstrated like pencil reading. So I got sneaky.
Okay.
I combined another aspect of this step, which is sound reading.
Okay.
And that had to deal with chalk and the blackboard.
And Spectator is a telepathist.
Well,
Was
that's what led me into incorporating that into this effect. Because in sound reading, just to cover that real quick, what Corinda's talking about is when you write it on a blackboard, and it also works with a marker on if they're writing big enough. You can listen for the sound, and let's take standard ESP symbols. You can kind of tell the difference in the chalk sound of a circle or two across. Three wavy lines have a distinct pattern. The cross is 4, and the star, of course, is all that
Squares,
stuff.
yeah.
Or square, I'm sorry, is 4 and the star. So I said, okay, how can I make this more surefire? As in the Spectator as the Telepathist, because this is a great premise. Because here's what's so wonderful about it. You write down a prediction. Now you're going to send this thought to somebody else, one letter at a time or one number at a time. They write down what they think they're receiving. You show what you wrote down first, and it's what they wrote down. It's perfect. Yeah. I mean, the idea of using a nail writer, which is how it works, seems out of the question because you never see the person's number until it's done.
Right.
And you show yours first. So how could you be nail writing when you don't even know it and you've already shown it? But in fact, that's what you're doing. You write a prediction you pretend to write a prediction, a 3-digit number, but you write nothing. I decided to use the sound principle in conjunction with pencil reading, using a piece of chalk in this little slate, which, courtesy of American Airlines, is now shattered. But that's okay, I got more at home. But with the thought that, okay, if you write on here, even though it's little, you can still hear the chalk. Also, it's small enough and the chalk is big enough in the holder in red, so you can pretty much see what's going on. And then the subtle thing, and again, this is one of those things that you just do automatically when you've been doing it for a long time, a little bit of experience, is when I first handed it to her, if you watch the performance section real close, I hand it to her and I say, okay, in a second you're going to be writing some numbers fairly large here, but not yet, I'll tell you when. So I've kind of shown her how big I want her to write the numbers. So now I go back and say, okay, I'm going to write a target number that I want you to, that I'm going to try to send to you number, and I pretend to write something. And in this case, it's okay to hold the thing in your hand with both hands. See, the easiest way to nail write is when you have something in your hands and you're holding it with both hands to steady it.
Sure. And
you're looking right at it. What could be better? Well, in this case, you have the perfect excuse for doing that because you're projecting a number. So it's only natural I would be looking like this and studying that number and not trying to project it into your mind. So, of course, I'm all set to go with the nail writer. So they have, you and I do it, okay? Right. So I hand you the chalk, and you're holding it up. But now you have to remember, I'm standing and you're sitting. This is an important thing to remember when you're trying to do pencil reading. They got to be sitting, you got to be standing. You don't have to be very close. The further you move away, the less the suspicion is that you're doing what you pretend to be doing. And also think about, again, the premise. I've already written down the target number. So even if I looked at you and saw what you were writing, it shouldn't alter the effect because I'm trying to send it to you. So there's no reason to keep it hidden, but I still set it up in such a way that it is supposedly hidden. Okay. Okay, I'm looking at the first number. All right. You know, put down what you think it is. Okay, well, that was clearly a 7. So, because I could just see the movement from where, so I say, okay, I'm looking at the second number, and now as I look down, I say I'm going to study the second number, and as I look down, I write 7, and now I start watching you again. Okay, that was a 4. Now, when the performance, I was almost sure it was a 6, but I wasn't absolutely positive. But again, since I supposedly have written my number and projecting it, I can just make sure, because I don't want to spoil the ending. So in this case, I said, did you just write a 6? And she goes, yeah, which was perfect. You know, it doesn't detract from it. It's like people go, how did you know that?
Yeah,
you know?
you played very well.
Yeah. If she had said no, then, you know, I would have had options. Either start again, or I could have even turned it into a joke. Well, what did you write? 8. Good. Just to make sure, I was in other words, I was afraid you might have wrote a 6. See, so you can always save the day and go back, just how you say it.
Sure.
One more number to go. And, okay, that was a 6.
That was a 0. Oh, okay, I missed that one too?
Yeah.
Okay, again, I'm sitting next to you, so,
Right.
you know, I'm trying to look like this. When if I had been standing up, my view is down, which is much better. Okay, so 2. So let's say I've done the whole thing now. The ending is so great because supposedly I don't know what you've written and say, well, I don't know if this worked or not, but my target number was 742.
Yeah.
And you saw the reaction that's,
Sure.
you know, was, you know, when everybody's sitting around who saw what she wrote, it seems like a perfect, you know, example of me throwing my thoughts to her. How could there be a trick? There was no way it could be a trick.
And the way the stage management was, the audience saw her numbers in the foreground.
Yes.
You were in the background, and it just looked great.
Positioned her facing me with the audience behind her. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you. This is, I appreciate that. This is something that I usually do when I'm just hanging around with people and they say, can you show me something? And look here's some, well, let me just come over here and get these envelopes. Let me hand you the batch of envelopes. You can just like look through them and maybe I get Frank involved this time. Give Frank a big round of applause. Come right up there, Frank. And well, what's your name? Marisa, what a pretty name, Marisa. Thank you for coming today. Give Marisa a big round of applause. Now, come on up here, Marisa, and take those envelopes with you. People were looking over those envelopes, and usually what I'll do is I'll just take a 20 out of my pocket. Okay, so that's what I've got here. It's just a $20 bill. Unless you would like to loan me one, I can use yours. No, that's okay. Now here's, you've examined these, and then I've got a couple pieces of paper that are cut to the same size. It's a bill, okay? Now, I want you to know that, you know, there's no markings on these envelopes or any nonsense like that. If you kind of come in a little closer to me now so you can all follow just what's happened, pick any one of those envelopes out. And, okay, and I'm just going to take it, and we're just going to put the bill right inside, okay? And you seal that up. Go ahead. Yummy? Okay, hold on to that. Give me another envelope. Okay? And look, I'm just putting them right inside. There's no trick or anything. I'm putting them in the same way. Yeah, look at it. And one more to go. That one? Okay. Here you go. We don't need these anymore. Go ahead, seal it up. You already did it?
Mix them up.
Did you seal that last one?
Yeah.
You're a quick licker there. I'll mix them up. Okay. Okay. So the deal is one of these three has my 20 in it. Take one. You happy with that? They feel the same because, I mean, the paper is the same size as the bill. Okay? Just hold it just like that. Now, that was fair? I want to just show you something. See, if I hold mine up to the light, can you see right through it? I know it's, can you see it? Mm-hmm. If I hold yours right to the light, see? Even the back side of mine, see that? And hold yours up. It looks the same? Mm-hmm. Hold yours up. Yeah? Open yours up.
I keep the 20?
Yeah. If you got it, you keep it. Open it. Wrong. Open yours up. And I try to be as fair as possible. They mixed them up. They picked the envelopes. They chose whatever envelope they want. Take out what you got. What does that say? Sorry. And again, look at no tricks. You know what? Well, how could it be a trick? You saw what happened. I mean, I didn't do anything. They did everything. And inside here, my $20 bill. Thank you. Maybe next time, Frank. Lisa, thank you.
Well, let's talk about the bank night type of routine that I guess Corinda calls just chance impromptu.
Right. I love this thing. And you know why I love it? Because I've read that for years and years and years and never tried it. Because I was always afraid of it. And again, I mentioned this earlier, there's no better way than to learn new material than to just refuse to just keep doing it, practicing it, and force yourself to make the props up and actually try it. This is something I read, so many years ago, just said, that won't work. And all of a sudden I find myself in a situation I've got to demonstrate it, so now I have to do it. Then I try doing it, and it works. Yep. And it works beautiful. Okay, the impromptu chance routine, and the reason it's here, and the switch, which we'll talk about, is in a different place too, but the reason this routine is here is touch reading.
Okay.
And basically you got 2 pieces of paper, and I use a 20. Since this is not meant to be some elaborate stage effect, but just something you do on the cuff almost. It's impromptu. 20 is fine. As a matter of fact, you're going to see as we talk about it, I don't even really play it up like I'm going to try to beat you or anything. That falls into place as you go along the routine, so people don't even really know until the very end where you're going with it. Mm-hmm. And by that time, it's too late for them to make trouble. Okay? The method is that you can feel the one that has the real money in, because the real money, the 20, has a bead in the corner.
Okay.
Now, I actually used, my wife has, a scrapbook here. Lisa's a scrapbooker, and she gave me a little diamond sticker thing. And I thought that would be kind of funny because, if there's anything that ought to show, it's a diamond sticking thing. So I actually used that because you never see it, of course, I just took the bill out. You cover it up with your thumb. And what Corinda suggests, if you really want to do it impromptu, if you have a pencil, break off the lead and tape it to the corner.
Okay.
Or anything that makes a little bows that you can feel. So, and I also had 2 pieces of paper, which I made sure I never opened ahead of time. I just laid them there, and they just said, okay, look, here's a dollar bill, and here's 2 pieces of paper exactly the same size as the $20 bill. So then I made sure I let them mix up the envelopes and give me whatever one they wanted to put the 20 in, so that any thought that the envelopes could be marked, if the person knows a little bit about magic or whatever, are gone from their mind. Okay, so they picked the first envelope. I slide it in, making sure that you can feel right there. The bead is on the bottom. You can't miss that. Yeah.
Yeah,
see?
absolutely. Yep, right. Yep.
Right there. And the other 2 just have the plain paper. Now, notice at no time did you ever say that it's going to be a contest.
Right.
All I'm saying is, okay, here you chose the envelope. We put a 20 in one and 2 pieces of blank paper in the other 2. Okay? And then I give it to the person. I say, okay, mix them up. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter who does it. Okay. And as I take them back, I just can tell, oh, there it is. It was right on top. You can let me mix them up and just take them and casually handle them and tell me if you can't feel which is the one, especially if you know it's off to the right a little bit.
Yeah, so this
right
one
there,
here.
right there. Okay. See, when I put it in, I purposely put it in so I knew it would be toward the right than toward the left, so my hand can just naturally hold it and I feel it. So I decided to position it in the bottom.
Right. Okay.
And I went to the first person and I said, just pick one out, and he grabbed this one, I think. Now I turn to this person. Hopefully, if they did that, great.
Then it's over.
Then it's over.
But that's not what happened.
No, they took the one.
They did this.
Okay, yeah.
So they've got the one with the paper.
Yeah, and I said, okay, everybody's happy with their choices. Now, at no time still have I suggested whoever has the envelope with the 20 gets to keep it. But now I do the move that Corinda talks about, the switch. That is so beautiful. I just love this. And you saw how it played. What I do is I say, the paper was exactly the same size as the 20. If I hold this up to the light, you can see it right through there. As a matter of fact, I can see yours right through there. And by the way, these are sealed. I'm not sealing them out, but they were sealed. I say, look, I can see yours right through there. Look at mine on the back. You see how you can see through here? And hold yours up. Can't you see yours right through the back there? And you see what I just did? I just switched them.
Right.
What happened is you have the one with the, is that the one with the 20? Yeah, you got the one with the 20. And so I say, see mine? You see how you can see the shape? The paper is exactly the same. Now, this pattern is a little different than Corinda. I didn't like Corinda's as much. I'm sorry. This was more natural for me. You see, I can see the shape right through. Okay? I take yours, and I say, and look, yours looks exactly the same.
Then I take and I set it down like this, and I do this, and I take yours right back, and I say, you see how even from the backside you can see the bill through mine? And here, hold yours up to the light.
Right,
you see?
Yeah.
And I've just switched them.
And it's basically people are familiar with the old, what's called the two-card Monty move. It has that feel to it.
Just for the record, I added that. In the original Corinda instruction, that's not part of it.
Okay.
In the original Corinda instructions, he takes yours and says, okay, you see, this is in yours, and here, look at in mine.
Okay.
He sets it down and comes right back with the same one.
Okay.
Whereas I thought the move of putting it down and doing this, whereas the backside of mine, you see, I thought
It's just
this
one
was
more
play.
layer of, yeah.
Yeah. So here, let's just run through the whole thing. You've got it here, okay, and you've got that one. I say, okay, did you hold it up to the light? If you hold mine up, you see how you can see the shape of whatever it is, the bill, or
Right.
and both the bill and the paper are exactly the same size, even from the backside. You see how the shape of mine is like that? You hold yours up,
Right.
You see?
So now it's done, yeah.
It's done. So then what I decided to do was leave you alone and go back to this person and say, okay, you chose that envelope. You get to keep whatever inside, open it up. At that point, all of a sudden,
Now it's a, yeah.
now all of a sudden it's a contest and it's too late because now I've got it. Okay? He opens it up. And what I decided to do was to write sorry and too bad or whatever I put.
Wrong, I think.
Wrong, yeah. So
Oh,
that
sorry, it says.
I never show that, but they open it up and it says sorry, that one. And then you open yours up and
Yeah, I think
it's
Yeah,
wrong.
mine says wrong, yeah.
and then I open mine up and I get the 20, And there you go. So you talk about simplicity and clever, little misdirection in the switch. And think of how many ways you could use a switch like that. If somebody's got something that you want to get a hold of, if you just practice it, it got to be so second nature and fun to me. I was walking around, here, let me do it. Not again, but that's what I was doing in my house.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you. I was talking to some of you earlier about the distinction of ESP, and how it's divided up into categories, And not that I make any claims myself. I just do what I do. I've done that my whole life. I just do what I do, and I say, I hope you enjoy it, and tell you that anyone could do what I do. I don't feel there's anything special about me. But I spent my life thinking about this kind of thing and practicing and trying to develop different ways to do things. That's why I keep getting banned from casinos. Because, when you talk about ESP, they usually talk about telepathy, means two minds communicating, or like what I did earlier when I said, think of, somebody's close to you and I try to pick it up and write it down. Clairvoyance is when you sense something that's hidden. Like if you lost an expensive ring and a clairvoyant can say, oh, it's in your driveway behind the bush, Or when I go to the casino and they're about ready to deal me the next card and I say, man, that's a 3, I'm going to stand. That kind of thing. And people are looking a little doubtful. How could you do that, Precognition, of course, is knowing the future. And we're going to do a few things that even have to do with that. That might even come into play later. Who knows? But for now, I need somebody who shuffles cards pretty well. Yeah. No, see, I don't trust her. No. Well, you know what? Here, I got a deck of cards right here. She used to be a dealer. She'd probably stack them on me. You don't trust me, I trust you. That's how it works. What's that? I took the jokers out, yeah. Yeah, okay, come on up here. Okay.
I am honest.
No, you're not Moni, you're Julia, right there. Okay, now here's what I want you to do. First of all, don't you guys always spread out the cards and show them they're all different? Then you mix them all up, all these different, and you give them this kind of shuffles like this here?
Yeah.
That's how you do it? Something like that, okay? But what I want you to do is going to be a little different. It's going to be a little different because when I do stuff here, it's different than like in a casino. Take the cards behind your back, since you're such an expert. Mix them behind your back.
On my back?
Yeah. Go ahead. Did you do it?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you guys see underneath the table? You can see my legs. You can see that I don't have any kind of other secret decks hidden under the table or anything like that. See? Just a table. And she's going to hand me the deck. Did you mix them?
Yes.
Okay, hand me the cards. I'm looking away. Hand me them face down. Okay, can you see me put them right under the table? Okay. Well, you go back to your seat, but you can look from there. Are they face up or face down? Okay, now are they face down?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, you can go back to your seat. Give her a round of applause. Okay, is this fair? She's a professional dealer from Reno? Or
Yes.
from Reno. Mix these cards up. And as I said before, you know, and this wouldn't help me be doing it this slow in a casino. I do other things, and you've seen me do this other stuff in casinos. But let me just do this. I think this is a black card. I may be wrong, but okay. You mixed them up. I kept them in. I'm getting another black card. Still another black card. Black? Is this black again? You didn't look.
No, if I shuffle in front, I would shuffle.
Black card. Yeah, spontaneous applause here would be appropriate. This one, I believe, is a red card. Red card. You're watching under the table, right? A red card. Another one. I've kept the deck, and I try to do this in a way that you can see the entire time. This is a black card, I believe. I think I'm going back to a black card.
Whoa.
There's a spade. You were thinking of that one, Scotty. Yeah. Let me do a few more here. A few more. Another black card. You see, if you were playing blackjack, how difficult, like this could be high and lows instead of black and red. Black. Red.
Whoa.
Let me do a little bit. Red. You're watching me real close, Angela. Red. Did you ever deal or play blackjack, or you played black? Red. Another red card. Am I right every time? Let me do a couple more. Red. One more. We're back to black, I think. Yeah. Here. You're right there. Frank, step over here. Put them behind your back. Stand right there. Mix them up. Are they all mixed up?
Yeah.
Okay. Hand them back to me. Face down or face up?
Face down.
You sure? Okay. And he mixed them up again. Red. No, I mean, I know they're all red. I'm getting the feeling this one is a diamond. This, what's that?
That was good.
That was good? A diamond. Another diamond. I think, another diamond. You didn't give me all diamonds here, I don't think. I'm getting another diamond here. Maybe they're all diamonds. Diamond? Yeah, I guess most of them were diamonds. Another diamond. Were there any hearts at all, I wonder? Yes, this one. And another one. And one more, heart or diamond. What do you think it is, Scotty? I'll project it to you.
Diamond.
Wrong. That's a heart. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. The ghost deck is something that I, again, read over and over and over again all these years, never thought about actually taking the time to make it up. And then when I finally did, it's fun. And it's kind of a totally unique, unique effect. And let me explain what it is. It's a marking system that's, and the reason it's here in this step again is touch reading again. It's a marking system that relies on touch. And it relies on putting little notches. And if you run your fingernail over it, you feel that. It just stops right on it. It's the tiniest little nail. Corinda talks about using a razor blade and making like a little V.
Okay.
I couldn't do that. I tried, you know, and it was always different and everything. And then I come up with the idea of taking a little triangular file, one of those in the little file kits where they get 5 files,
yes.
and some are round. And I got the little triangle one, and I just held it like real tight right there and just went zip, 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 zip. And I used the these markings on the back of the cards, you know, the natural markings here, 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 and here to help me always put the mark in approximately the same place. Because I didn't want to hold a bunch of cards together and try to go through that because I knew that some would get deeper, and so I'd rather take the time and do it one at a time.
And the marks are on each long edge.
Yeah, well, here's how the marks work. If the card is red, it's marked here and here.
Okay.
So that even if you turned it around, it's still here and here. Okay, that's for all the red cards. Black cards are not marked at all.
Okay.
So just red cards. So here and here for all the red cards. If the card is a heart, the card is also marked here and here. And again, turn it around, wouldn't matter because here and here or here and here.
Okay.
Then finally, if the card is an even card, it's marked here and here. So this particular card actually being red, heart, and even
Has all the marks.
has 6 marks on each card.
Okay.
Whereas a diamond, for instance, let's say, and if it's not a heart, then it's not going to be marked for odd or even either. A diamond would only have those 2 marks. That's it. And a heart with that's an odd card like the 3 has 1, 2, 3, 4, but nothing on top. And here is the whole routine, as explained in Corinda, is you have a bunch of cards that are shuffled up, and then one by one you take the cards and you feel that should be black, black, that one's black, that's red, okay, red, okay, and that's black, and you can just feel that quickly, black, red, okay, black. And so what you do is you sort them through either under the table, or he even suggests you could do it above your head, you know, red and that kind of thing, and do it. Given the situation and the way people were sitting, I said, well, that would work out good if I did it under the table and they could see under the table, you know, that I'm not doing anything sneaky. I'm just
Right.
taking the cards off the deck. So I made a big play about make sure you look under. I don't have another deck or nothing like that. Now, there was a little thing that I should mention because I want to fill you in on all the little details. Well, let me finish the effect first, and I'll tell you the last thing. So anyways, the effect in the book is that you sort out all these cards, and at the end, you wind up having all the reds here and a big pile of blacks here, and that's the first amazing thing. And then you take all the reds, have somebody shuffle them, put them under the table, and now you're going to bring them up, and this time you're going to go down here, and what you're going to say is, you know, heart. And you do the same thing again, heart, heart. And you run through the diamond, you know, and you sort them out again, diamond, and you do it also. You wind up with 2 more piles of diamonds and hearts. And then the last thing you do is you take this last pile, mix them up, and you go back, and this time you're using the ends, and you say whether the card is odd or even. Odd. You say 13 is odd, and this is odd, and then you feel the next one is even. You see what I'm saying? Yep. And the last thing you do is even. You sort them out to odds and evens, like this.
Right.
And that's how the finale is. So first you've separated red from black, then hearts from diamonds, and finally odds from even. I didn't get to do the last part because the way it turned out, there was only a few cards that were actually hearts.
and to put like 3 or 4 cards under the table and sort of odd, it even hardly seemed worth the effort, so I cut it off there. Now let me tell you about the other little thing that happened.
Okay.
The girl who insisted, Julia?
Yes.
Who insisted on shuffling the deck because she was a dealer in a casino.
Right.
And she insisted, no, I'm the one who, I want to shuffle the cards myself. You know, people, again, you know, people at home watch these things and say, oh, the audience is all set up and they just play. Man, you know, she all day long she was coming after me. I'm going to show you later other things I had to do in the show to put her off. And
deal with her.
Yeah. So anyways, I knew if I ever handed her the deck, if she was truly, in fact, a dealer, from the side, it's hard to recognize, but you can see those little dots.
You can see a little work in it.
Yeah, you know, maybe as the more I use this, if they get dirtier and dirtier, that may get covered up more and more. But you can see those dots, even on the ends. And I was afraid that if I gave her the deck like this, and she started doing a standard dealer shuffle, you know, as soon as she got here, wait, what's that? You know, or she would know something, because she was so suspicious anyways. And so you could watch the video and see my thinking. It's like, what am I going to do? Okay, I know what. Since you're a dealer, you should shuffle so good, see if you can shuffle them behind your back.
Right.
And then I said, now, the reason I'm having you do that, hand me the cards under the table. I don't want to see them at all from the, you know, I don't want you to see them, me to see them, or anything. So I tried to use that into the effect to make it that much stronger, and never give her the chance. And then you notice I had her go and sit back down before I started doing it.
Right.
Because I was afraid if she was still here and I started doing it, she might start picking them up off the table. So again, she was like being a little bit of trouble. So fine, okay, you helped me, now go sit down. Take away the possibility she could do that. That's another thing we should talk about. When you talk about experience, especially in mentalism, that's what happens over all these years of doing it. You start realizing, okay, don't take a chance leaving this person around where they could screw up something. Get rid of them. You know, have them do what they do and then go sit down. Yep. You know, make everything as angle-proof and shock-proof as possible. Don't leave opportunities for bad stuff to happen, and most of the time, bad stuff won't happen.
Even if you have a volunteer that up on stage that's troublesome, you shouldn't be afraid to dismiss them and get somebody else.
And just make an excuse. And by the way, speaking of volunteers, you notice I never asked for volunteers. She insisted out of the blue, you know. I said, well, I'm going to get somebody to help me shuffle, and I was getting ready to pick somebody. And, oh, me.
Oh, yeah.
I never asked for volunteers. Unless for once in a blue moon, it's necessary for the effect. I pick people out of the audience. You know, this business is about, and we're getting a little bit off topic, but this is all part of performing. This business that you sometimes read in books where it says, you know, if you have a troublemaker, the best way to deal is to get them up in front and they'll calm down. Whoever writes that stuff, get rid of the book. That's the worst thing you can do. You suspect somebody's a troublemaker, stay away from them. 9 times out of 10, you get a person like that up on stage with you, they're not going to calm. They're going to get worse.
Yeah. I mean, the theory is that, you know, I think the thinking is you give them the attention that they're apparently craving, and then they'll be satisfied and stop. But that's not usually the case.
No, they just want more. And then it's almost like you're legitimizing their behavior, and they just go further and further. They'll wreck your show if you let them. So, nah, don't do that.
All good advice.
Thank you very much. What's your name? Anita. Anita, come on up here. Give Anita a big round of applause. If you stand right here, Anita. Now, just before we began, I said, is there anyone who feels like they're really intuitive? And Anita, you said you felt as though you are. Is that correct?
Yes.
So what kind of things happen to you that make you feel that way?
I've seen things where I go up to somebody and I get a sense or get a feeling about them.
Okay, so if I were to ask you to mentally cooperate with me and really think what I tell you to think, you would do that.
Yes.
And you wouldn't like play games, but because people do that, they think it's a game, and so I might say, clear your mind, and think of a color, and they don't do it. They think I didn't mean it, and I mean it, So, and speaking of colors, these are primary colors, yellow and, well, black's not a color, of course, red, green, and blue.
Right.
And the first part of this is just to sort of set in your mind. There's a reason I use cards and not just mental thoughts. First of all, obviously, you can visualize colors when you actually see them in front of you, than just imagining it, if you will. I mean, that's pretty vibrant red. Also, if you mix that with some kind of action, now you're doubly reinforced. Like, for instance, sometimes I'll have people write a thought down. I don't look at it. They hold on to it, maybe destroy the paper or put it away. But the simple action of writing helps me. It reinforces the thought. Well, here, I'm going to have you do something simple. I'm going to hand you the cards.
Okay.
And then you're just going to turn aside, and I'll look this way. And all I'm going to ask you to do is just decide on one color.
Okay.
And let's say you decided on yellow. And just to perform some kind of action, we'll just turn it over like that.
Okay.
And then you can mix them up. You know, just give the cards a cut. So like, again, just take it, just turn it over like that and cut the cards after. That way you have done something physical with them, okay?
Okay.
Now I'll just look the other way. I'll come over here and talk to Frank for a second. So how you doing, Frank? Good, glad to hear it. That's it. All done? Are we all done?
Yes.
Okay, now this may or may not work. I don't know. And I'm taking them just the way she handed them back to me. I'm just going to set them across like this so that they're all kind of separate, okay? That fair?
Yes.
Now, I want you to hold my hand just like this. And I just kind of randomly threw them over there. I'm going to take my hand and I'm just going to kind of pass my hands over. I want you to just look at my hand and I want you to will my hand down to touch the right card.
Okay.
You understand what you're doing?
Yes.
You really have to concentrate. Well, when my hand gets near the right card, you just think it down.
Okay.
You just think it to go down and touch whatever card it is. Just let me go here. Let me go here. Let me go. You want me to touch this card, don't you?
Yes.
Is that the one you chose?
Yes.
Thank you. Some people, skeptics, say maybe there's marks that I can't quite see on the cards, you know, and that's why you had them turn it over. I'll turn away, look at the cards, think of one color, just think it. We don't even touch it, just think of one color. Got it?
Yes.
Okay, help me here. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Anita, you said?
Yes.
Okay, here we go, Anita.
Yes.
I'm going to turn my back. Angela, you come here. You're going to stay right next to me. You picked green, or you, better yet here. Put the green in the envelope. Just like that. I'm going to turn my back. You're going to go out there and give it to somebody.
Okay.
No, you are.
Okay.
And then Angela, your job is to make sure I don't peek. Okay? Put your hands over my eyes, Angela. Put your hands over my eyes. Can I see anything? Can you feel my eyes actually closed under your hands?
Eyes are shut, definitely.
You can see that.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I can't see it, but I can feel it, yeah.
Okay. When Anita is through, come back up here, Anita.
I'm here.
Okay. Now, was that fair? Okay, thank you, Angela. You can sit down. Now, normally when I would do this on the stage, they would escort me off the stage into like a room where they would close, but we can't do that, all that stuff in here. Think, first you're going to think of the direction, you're going to think of the person who's got it. Help me out here. Help me out. You gave it to somebody here. Just think which way you want me to go. Somebody's got that envelope. They probably put it in their pocket or something. Think. Come in here. Think me here. Do you have the envelope?
I do.
Give it to me. Thank you. Come back up here, Anita. We're not through with you yet. Let me do this. Let me take all these cards. I'm gonna try one last thing. Okay, we're gonna put this card in here. Okay, they can put this card in here, this card in here, this card in here, oh, and this card in here. Fair?
Yes.
And I wasn't, I mean, they could have been any envelopes. I just grab whatever's around. Okay, you're going to go through the envelopes. You're going to pick one out, take the card out, turn it over like you did before, and put it back in.
Okay.
That, once again, will reinforce in your mind what the color is. Now, you're probably thinking, well, you already proved that you can do it without, just by her just thinking of it. But there's something else involved here. I'll show you why in a second. Go ahead. I'll turn away. Take it out. Now, one or two people see you taking it out and turning it over. That's okay, but I'm not looking, and I'm not trying to see. There's no monitors over here that could help me. Have you done it?
Yes.
Okay, now mix those envelopes up. I'm not even turning back to look yet. And
Okay.
okay, is that fair?
Yes.
Okay, now you don't know which one has the card. Okay, and I'm just going to put them around the table like this, just like this, okay? Now, one of those has the card in it that you selected, but you don't know which one.
No.
Okay. You said you were intuitive.
Not that intuitive.
Not that intuitive.
Not with cards.
Okay. Okay. Hold my hand.
Okay.
You can't help me. You can't guide me because you don't know.
No.
And this is crazy. And, you know, I'm not even going to go like it. Not that one. No. Did anybody see what color it was?
Yes.
Do you want me to keep that one or not?
Yeah, I do.
Whoa.
What was the color that you chose?
Black.
Thank you. Give Anita a big round of applause. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Now, the trick that's called Sujan
Location.
in Corinda is actually a dealer's item that's gone by a bunch of different names, but Telecolor cards is the one
cards,
that
yeah.
is most commonly known as. But it played extremely well in the show.
Yeah, I kind of, well, I'm really excited about this one because it worked exactly how I wanted it to work. So the Telecolor cards themselves, let me explain what they are, because this is not quite the same method as Corinda discusses in the book. In the book, well, let me explain what they are first. Every card, when you deal it down, if you deal it one way, it will bend easy in the corner, whereas if you turn it around this way, upside down, it bends hard. Here, take this one and try it. Just deal it like you normally would deal it down and feel the corner. Did you feel how it
it's very
was?
supple, yep.
Now turn it around the other way and deal it down.
It's got a little more resistance
Yeah.
this way. Yeah.
Quite a bit more if you're
yeah.
looking for
Oh,
it. You know?
absolutely, yep.
So the way he says to make these up in the book is to cut the cards out and then take a mixture of starch and water and brush it diagonally across the card and let it dry, and then you get that firmness on that side. That would be this side. But the way I know these cards were made in the past, when I made these, I'll explain that too in a second, but the way they were made is you just simply get like poster board and you turn it at a 45-degree angle so that the grain of the paper is now running at an angle, and you cut that this way.
Okay.
So that what's happened now, instead of the grain running either up and down or across, the grain is running at a diagonal. So if it's running the way that one way, it feels hard because the grain is going this way and you're trying to bend the card against the grain.
Whereas if you turn it over this way, it bends easy because the grain is running this way, and you're bending it
with the grain.
Yeah, with the grain. And it doesn't matter. You see, if you turn it this way, it's the same thing as turning it this way. It achieves the same thing. Okay. I couldn't find anybody selling the plain cards like this. They were selling variations of the principle, but the plain original Telecolor cards that I've always used were not available. So maybe somebody makes them. I haven't seen them. So I decided to make my own up by getting the poster board, taking the time, and cutting them. Mm-hmm. And also, during that making them up process, I also improved on something else too, because later in the routine we're going to be using the envelopes. Well, the original Telecolor cards were basically the same size as playing cards. And when you put them in a standard pay envelope, they would come down to somewhere around here. And so you're going to feel through the envelope when you deal them down. Well, that's not, I wanted something better. I wanted them to come right through the edge so you can just, as you deal down naturally, will be able to feel it. So I actually lengthened them a little bit. Okay. I made them so they fit in just enough so that they'll go in and out just nice. And they come right through the edge. And there's going to be another aspect over here that I'm going to talk about. Okay, now let me tell you why I'm so excited about this. Because this is almost like a simple little trick. When I've always thought about this as just a simple dealer's item that, you know, you used to buy in the magic store for $3 to $5. Right. A simple trick you kept in your pocket, you did it once in a while, and that's it. But when I was studying the Sujan location in Corinda, he talks about having somebody hold, you know, he has somebody standing next to him who's going to reverse the card, and then you pretend to use their feelings to come down on the right card. See, because what the effect is, of course, you hand the cards to someone, and you say, choose any card you want, turn it over, then mix the cards up. And then when you take the cards back, as you deal them down, one card feels different than the others. In this case, it was the green one. So I already know that's the card chosen. But if I'm going to take the person by the hand and say, think of your card, I want to get the maximum value out of that. So I said, let me begin by choosing someone by saying, who really feels that they're intuitive? You know, who really believes in, you know, in ESP and the ability to receive thoughts, and she reacted. The girl who came up really reacted like, yeah, that's me. You know, I really am serious about this stuff. And I talked to her a while to make sure that was in fact the case. And I did the first part with her, and I knew it was green. So I took her by the hand, and I said, okay, just think of the card, and when I come near it, direct me down to it. So now I'm not even worried about getting the right card, I know, but now I'm thinking, let's see how she reacts for muscle reading. Okay. See, because I'm using this as a test to get a good subject for muscle reading. Well, sure enough, I got to the chosen card, and in her case, I think it was the second one in, and as soon as I got near it, I felt her going right down, directing me to that card. Okay. And I didn't even hesitate. I said, you're thinking of green. Okay, so that's the first part. But now I know I got a good subject. So I said, okay, let's be logical. How would you do it as an effect? I had you reverse it the first time and set it in your mind. But, you know, I don't want you thinking like there's marks or something on the card. So just think of a color. Yeah. You know, I'm sure people in the audience are, wait a minute, you know, who even know the principle. It's like, what? Just think of a color. Let's do it again. Because now I know I got a good subject. Sure enough, I got to the right card right away. And she's there, yeah, that's it. So I'm figuring, okay, and this was all planned out ahead of time. This is, I knew I was going to go this route. I said, if I get that far with her, I know for a fact that the hardest thing to do in muscle reading is that. Okay. Because it's so close together. To be able to get somebody to direct you to a single object on a table was one of the hardest things to do. So I knew already if I could get that done, then finding a person in the audience with an envelope will be a cinch. So that's why I said, okay, you know, let's take any one of the cards and you go and hide it. And I went through the whole business of having Angela cover my eyes and that whole thing. And then I walked into the audience and found that. You see, all of a sudden what became a little cheap little magic shop trick becomes an open production. Yeah, and then the last thing is the strongest thing with these, of course, I put them all in envelopes. Right. And then have the person choose one and reverse it. And because this principle works so good, as you deal them out, even with the envelope present, you can still find which is which.
Right.
And then I try to make it a big production at the end when, you know, I'm saying, okay, one of these is yours, and you can't help me because you don't know which one, so I can't be trying to pick up your thoughts, and I can't even explain why I can do this. Right. You know, which is always a great line. People love stuff like that. You know, it's like, he doesn't even know how he does it. You know, it's weird, you know, but he can do it. And then, as you know, what I wanted to do is really make it showy. And in mentalism, you've got to do stuff to make things big, because what are you working with? This kind of stuff. So it's like, you know,
yeah,
like
you're
that.
tossing the
Toss it off, and that's cool, you know. I mean, it's like, no, I'm not getting nothing, you know. Now you made it vibrant, you made it, you know, physical. And then at the end, of course, it was like, which two? And then I said to her, and you know, I can't even tell you this was a guess, because I just kind of felt it, that when I had two of them at the end of my hand, I just knew she was thinking of this one. I can't, maybe she looked at it. I just knew, and that's why I said, which one should I pick? And she said, that one. I said, really? Okay. And then, of course, that was the one that had the right color in it. So, again, what starts out as a simple little magic trick that you could buy in a magic shop becomes a major production, a major stage production. You know, walking out into the audience and finding something, that's big time. That's a big deal. That's bigger than most magic illusions, because most magic illusions only happen on the stage. When you go into the audience to like find something hidden out there, you've just become bigger than life. You've become bigger than the stage.
That's great.
Yeah.
So let's spend a brief couple of moments talking about actually the mechanics of muscle reading, that sequence where you actually went into the audience and being apparently led by the impulses of the spectator.
Right. Now there's two schools of thought. You see in some books, Corinda included, where you have the person who you're going to try to read hold on in one way or another to your own hand. I never liked that idea, because to me, if you're leading them, you ought to take their hand and lead them, as opposed to them taking your hand. Because what does that suggest? If I take your hand and walk somewhere with you, who's leading who?
Yeah, you're leading them.
But if you take my hand and we walk somewhere, who's leading now?
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Sure.
So effect-wise, again, getting back to effect, what looks better? Well, it looks better if I hold your hand and lead you to where you're thinking. Okay, you're going to think of somewhere. Okay, come on, think, and I'll find it. You know,
Right.
that's okay. Here's how it feels if you've never tried this before. You take somebody's hand and you hold it next to you, and you have to come in. You have to say things like, okay, we're going to walk in the right direction. You have to get somebody who's going to cooperate. This will never work. You have to get some, and that's why I set it all up with these cards, because by then I knew I had somebody who was going to do what I want him to do. But still, even then, I still set her up. I said, okay, here's how we're going to do. You've hidden this envelope somewhere in the audience. I'm going to start taking you and walking you through the audience. If I'm going the wrong way, you think in your mind, that's wrong, turn. Whereas if I'm going the right way, you think, yes. You know, as we get closer to the person, you think of what direction you want me to go to, and as we get closer, you actually think of the person and try to think me right to that person. So now what you do is you have the person by the hand, and you just start walking. And as you're walking, you walk a couple, and you will, if you have a good subject, and you have to practice this in a while to get the feel of it, but you will just get, it'll be the subtlest little feeling in your hand. And that if you go this way, you feel a little resistance. You go this way, you're not less resistance. Sometimes you get a good subject, it will almost feel as though they are leading you. They're not doing it consciously, but they're thinking so intently. See, if you can get that person to think intently of where they want you to go, yeah, they will lead you. When I do the business with the cards, now I say, watch my hand and just think of, with this hand, I'm saying, even though I'm saying when I come to the card, you think me to reach down and touch it. But I do the same thing with this hand. So this hand is pushing their arm down. Same thing when I'm walking them around. If you want me to go this way, think that way. If you want me to go turn the air direction, think me to go that way. But I'm moving their hand this way. With practice, and if you do it all the time, all of a sudden becomes a surefire thing. And with most people, not just a few good people, but with most people, if you can convince them that they need to concentrate, Now, we got to disagree with Corinda a little bit here.
Okay.
In the book, he says, I would never recommend this as a standard part of a stage act. I don't like the idea of people walking out, stepping over other people to find pins or whatever is in the audience. But look at Kreskin and Polgar. I mean, this was a major part of their show. One of the reasons my theory is that Kreskin can do it so good, besides the fact that he's great and he's done it his whole life, is that he put so much value on it. We're going to hide my paycheck worth thousands of dollars and anywhere in this room, and I'm going to find it. I've only missed, this many times, and I'm going to find it. If I don't find it, I lose it. You're costing me all this money. So you got to concentrate. Well, given that situation, you're not going to find too many people going to fool around.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're up on stage, and this is important stuff. So by getting the person in that same frame of mind with whatever you do, this is important. You have to help me. You can't play around. You can't be thinking of other things. You can't be saying, "Oh, this is just a game." You really have to find a person you have to convince them, or find a person who is really going to work with you. Once you have that, it's incredible. Mm-hmm. I've done trade shows where last year I did a trade show in Washington D.C. and it was a big, huge trade show, and I had a big crowd gathered around me, and we had something, I forget what it was, and the woman went and hid it in anywhere they wanted in the trade show.
Wow.
And then came back later. And by this time, a big crowd had gathered. And I took her by the hand, and we walked around. I had to walk to the other side of the trade show, and then the whatever it was inside something on somebody else's booth, in a container. And I found it. I mean, and everybody's applauding, and word gets around. That's really satisfying. Do that kind of major thing with nothing.
Right.
No props. You can take whatever is laying around and set it up and do it. So I disagree with Corinne. It can be used in a standard, in a stage show,
But you need a good subject.
You not got to know what you're doing. And here again, this is why I think this was so valuable with the cards, because before you even begin, you got a good subject already.
You kind of qualified her by using the cards.
Exactly. Yep. Okay.